Okay, so we're starting here on page 14, and we're in the middle of a speech um, by the goddess Athena, who is a goddess who supports Odysseus throughout the poem. And she has just appeared in the form of, or disguised as, Odysseus's old friend Mentor. And she's giving a speech in which she's really encouraging Odysseus, telling him that he needs to up his game, I suppose. You know, she's saying, look, I remember when you were killing all those men in the great city of Troy, and, you know, you brought about its fall, and now you're being timid when you're facing just a few cowardly suitors. So she's trying to sort of urge him on. And then she says, here, she says, al age, right? But come, right? Ago means to lead, literally, but age as an imperative form just means come on, or something like that. But come, and then pepon is a vocative form. It means something like friend, like phile. It's a sort of term of endearment. So come here, friend. Histaso, now this is another imperative, it means stand. Para eme, right, next to me, stand by me. Para plus accusative, meaning next to someone. So stand by me. Kai ide, this is another imperative from horao, to see. So see a deed, ergon. In other words, you know, watch what I am about to do. Offra eides. Now, offra is the same as the word hina in later Greek, and it means so that. And it takes subjunctive, so it's just like ut in Latin, introducing a purpose clause. So it means so that you may know, eides, subjunctive from oida, to know, so that you may know. Hoios. Now, hoios means what sort of person, you know, what kind of, you know, of what sort, literally, so that you may know of what sort. Mentor Alcimedes. So mentor is the name. Alcimedes means son of Alcimus. That's a patronymic. And then we have to imagine the verb to be, like esti or something like that. So hoios mentor means something like what sort of man mentor is. And then we get an infinitive, apotine, to repay. Euergesias, favors. En andrasi dusmene essin. En plus dative here probably means among. So, or in a group of, so among, and dusmenes means hostile, and then aner is a man. So en andrasi dusmenesin means among hostile men. So mentor slash Athena is basically saying, you know, watch me, you know, I'm going to do some impressive things, which will show you that I'm the sort of person who, pays back favors even among, you know, enemies, you know, even in a dangerous situation. And then we get this phrase, ra. Now, ra is a lot like the phrase hose fat that we've seen before. Is another way of saying he or she spoke. And ra is one of these particles which, in a sense, this one we don't even really know what it means. Maybe just something like indeed or something. It just strengthens the meaning a bit. So I wouldn't even translate ra here, I don't think. I would just say she spoke, and kai. And then the main verb is didu, which is an imperfect form of the verb didomi, to give. And then going with that is u po, which means not yet. U meaning not and po meaning yet. So she was not yet giving, And then panku is an adverb which means something like wholly or entirely or altogether. And in fact, I forgot to include that in my translation, so I've added it now. So you could say something like, she was, I've now changed this to, she was not yet entirely giving. And then we have to imagine a word like to him, auto. She was not yet entirely giving him heteralkea niken, decisive victory. Now, this word heteralkea, the heter bit is about the other, right? So like in English words like heterosexual or heteronomy or whatever, it's to do with, you know, another group, right? Like heterosexual, being attracted to the other sex. Alker, we met earlier in the text, means something like valor. So therefore, this adjective heteralkea means something like valor for the other side. So heteralkea niken means victory that swings the balance in the battle to the side that was inferior before. So you could translate it as tide turning or something like that. I think decisive is maybe an easier way of doing it. Okay, so she did not yet altogether give him, or she wasn't yet altogether giving him decisive victory, but Allah. And then we have this word eti, which means still, right? She was still peire tisden, she was still testing. And this word takes genitive. So she was testing te, both, the stheneos, the strength, kai alkes, and the valor, there's that alker word again, valor, of emen Odysseus, both Odysseus, and ede, of his huyu kudalimoia, huyos meaning a son, and kudalimos meaning glorious or something like that. And you can see here is that Homeric genitive form. So in later Greek, that would be kudalimu, but in Homer, it's kudalimoia, right? That oia genitive singular is very distinctive of Homer. So she was still testing both the strength and valor of both Odysseus and his glorious son. So in other words, Athena is not going to just give him an easy victory, you know, served up on a silver plate. She's testing him a bit. You know, she wants to see what he and Telemachus are made of. Because of course Telemachus is the son, the huios koudalimos. Okay, and there, she herself, auter. And then we get an aorist participle, anaixasa, having darted up, having sort of, moved quickly up. And you can see, by the way, the two dots above the iota there indicate that that is a separate syllable from the alpha before it. So it's not anaixasa, 4 syllables, it's anaixasa, 5 syllables. That's the point of this, of those two dots. Okay, so having darted up, ana melathron. Now, ana means sort of up to somewhere, and it takes accusative. So up to the roof, melathron, of the sooty hall. So aithaloentos means sooty or smoky. And it's genitive agreeing with megaroia, right? And that's another of those genitive forms ending in oia, meaning of the hall. Okay, so having darted up there, she sat down, hesdeta, and she's described as akele, that means similar, and it takes dative. Similar kelidoni, that means to a swallow, as in swallow as in the sort of bird, and it's dative there, similar to a swallow. The nominative would be kelidon, but this is kelidoni, dative, similar to a swan in appearance, anten. Anten means something like in appearance or to look upon or something like that. So, in Homer, gods are often changing their appearance, right? So 1 minute she was in the shape of a human, Mentor, and now she's sort of flown up to the roof in the shape of a bird, looking like a swallow. Okay, so let's go on then. So let's go here to line 241. Okay, de, meaning and or but. I translated that as now, just for a bit of variety. So now, Agelaus, he's the new subject, Agelaus, son of Damastor, Damastorides, that's another patronymic, son of Damastor. What did he do? He otrune, he urged on or stirred up the suitors, mnesteras, accusative plural, and tekai, and Eurynomos, and Amphimedon, and Demoptolemos as well, and Peisandros, or in English you could write Peisandros, or in English you could spell it Peisander as well. And we get another patronymic. He is Peisander, the son of Polyctor, Polyctorides. Right, all of those words ending in I-D-E-S, Edes, are patronymics. Right, Peisander, son of Polyctor, and te Daiphron Polybos, wise Polybus. And again, you have those 2 dots above the iota to show you that it's not 2 syllables, Daiphron, but 3 syllables, da-i-phron. Okay, and then going on to line 244, gar, which means for in the sense of introducing an explanation, for they were esan, by far exoka, by far the best, aristoi, right, like aristocracy in English, by far the best, in valor, arete, dative case, literally they were by far the best with valor, and in English we would say in valor, of the suitors, mnesteron, genitive plural. And then Homer sort of corrects himself. He says, well, then they weren't the best of all the suitors, but they were the best of all the suitors who were still alive. So he says, hossoi, right, as many as were still, eti, living, esdoon, were still living, and te, were still fighting, emakonto, were fighting, peri psukeon. Peri means about, and it takes genitive. So peri psukeon means they were still fighting about their lives. But in English, of course, you don't fight about your life, you fight for your life. Okay. But there. Those ones, tous, and this is accusative plural, and I think this is a reference to the other, brave suitors. Those ones, the bow, bios. Now, this is a word that you have to be a little bit careful about, because the word bios has 2 different meanings in ancient Greek. Bios with the accent on the I means life, but bios with the accent on the omicron, the O, means a bow in the sense of bow and arrows, right? So those ones, tous, the bow, and kai, the tarfe esioi, the thick flying arrows, right? Tarfe es means something like thick flying, and an ios is an arrow, like sagitta in Latin, and the thick flying arrows had already overcome edamasse. Okay, but there, ageleos, in English we often spell that name with a U in it, even though in Greek it's ageleos. In English we often spell it ageleus, right? So, and again, you can decide which of those you prefer to write. But ageleus, metalego means to speak among a group of people, and it takes dative. So Agelaus spoke among them, tois. Pifauskon, that's a present participle, expressing a word, epos, to all, pantesi. In other words, saying what he wanted to say to all of them. That's the point there. And then let's just start his speech here. He says, "O philoi, O friends." So philoi would be vocative plural there. "O friends. Now, this man, hoder aner, this man, scarce will hold back, will restrain his aptus keiras, his invincible hands, right? Keiras are hands, and this adjective aptos, literally haptomai means to touch something in Greek. So if something is aptos, that means it is untouched or untouchable. Or in this case, you might say invincible. And then he says, kai de, and indeed, mentor has gone, Eber this is the aorist of Bino, he has gone. Now, hoi here is the dative, literally has gone for him. I think in this case, has gone from him. Speaking, apon, aorist participle from Lego, speaking, kena eugmata. Now, eugmata are boasts, and the word kenos, the adjective kenos, means empty. That's where we get the word a cenotaph, right? In English, it's written like this, cenotaph, which is literally an empty tomb, right? Because it's a monument for people who died in war and whose bodies might be lost at sea or buried far away or something like that, right? So mentor has gone from him speaking empty boasts. So he's lost his ally. You know, mentor was all talk, but no action. Or as people sometimes say in English, he was all bark and no bite. Okay, so mentor turned out to be a waste of time. And they, hoide, and they are left, le pontai, alone, oioi, right? The adjective oios with a smooth breathing means alone. They are left alone at, right? So epi plus dative, at literally the first doors, protesi furesi. And here, instead of first, we might say the outer doors. So he's basically saying, look, you know, Odysseus is clearly about to give up. You know, even Mentor, who was boasting that he was about to kill us, has now just disappeared. And these people, you know, Odysseus, Telemachus, Eumaeus, Philoetius, you know, they're all just on their own. So therefore, you know, I think they're going to give up. And of course, what he doesn't realize is that Mentor has not run away. You know, Mentor was actually the goddess Athena, who has flown up to the roof and will probably do more to help Odysseus later on. Okay, so that's the end of those 2 pages. Now, before I end this video, what I also want to do is just to talk a little bit about scansion again, and just remind you a bit about that. So remember, in this meter, which is hexameter, a dactylic hexameter it's called, instead of iambic pentameter, this is dactylic hexameter. Remember, the last 5 syllables are always long, short, short, long, X. And the reason we put the X for the last one is because it could be long or short. So if you take this line, for example, line 2, 3, 3, what you want to do is count the last 5 syllables. So the last 5 syllables are kai, ide, ergon. So that would be the first thing that I would do, is mark in those last 2 feet. So kai, maybe draw it a bit more thickly. So no, that's too much. Yeah, that'll be fine. So kai, kai, de, so long, short, short, and then will be long, and then gon we can mark with an X, because it could be long or short. Right, so that now gives us the last 2 feet. Now, the other thing to remember here is that if you have, in Greek, there are some vowels that are always short. So for example, an epsilon is a short vowel, because the long version would be eta. And similarly, omicron is also a short vowel, because the long version would be omega. So those ones are naturally short. Now, the only exception to that is if it's followed by 2 or more consonants. So for example, if you look at this omicron here, you can see the O is followed by an N and a P. So therefore, this omicron is actually going to be long, unusually. But again, here we have an epsilon, and it's not followed by 2 consonants, so it's short. And here again, we have an omicron not followed by 2 consonants. So now, we can start filling things in. So for example, this first syllable, the first one's always long. Okay. And here, so we've got al, and this one has to be short as well. Because if this was long, al, a would be a spondy, and then the next foot would have to begin with a long. So this has to be al, a, ge. Okay, and then similarly here, right, we've got a blank and then 2 shorts. So that's got to be long, short, short. Because remember, there are only 2 options for these feet. Either dactyl, long, short, short, or spondy, long, long. Those are the only 2 options. So you've got al ageduropepon. So that's another foot. And again, same thing here. You've got long, and then what could this be? Right? If this is long, then we've got a spondy, but then we're stuck because we can't begin a foot with a short. So this will also have to be long, short, short. Okay. And then here, so now how many feet have we got? We've got 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we only need 1 more foot. And how many syllables have we got left in histasa? 3. And therefore we can't have spondies, because if we've got 3 syllables, and to fit into 1 foot, it's got to be a dactyl. So it's got to be long, short, short. And in fact, we could also figure out that this syllable heast is long because it's a vowel followed by 2 consonants. Histaso. Right. So in that first line of the page, which is line 233, the rhythm is al ageduropepon parem histasokai ide ergon. Like that. So I'm just going to then have a look at the next line. Okay, so again, the way to start is look for the last 5 syllables, and those will be long, short, short, long, long. In other words, dactyl, then spondy. And the last 5 syllables are all contained in this word, dusmeneessin. Okay, so therefore we can mark that in. So dusmeneessin. So long, short, short, long, X. Okay, so those are our last 2 feet. Then, what else can we see? Well, the first syllable of the line is always long because it's either the beginning of a dactyl or the beginning of a spondy. Either way, that's long. Now, here you can see an eta, a des. Now, that's an eta is a long vowel, so that's long. And if you remember, a vowel plus 2 consonants is also long. So the A here, and that's long, because you've got A followed by an N and a D. So that's long. And then remember, some of the vowels are naturally short. And in fact, by the way, this O here, you can see it's an O followed by an S and a T. So that's a vowel followed by 2 consonants, so it's long. And also, you can see we have an N here, right, this word N, and that's got to be short because an epsilon is a short vowel and it's not being lengthened by being followed by 2 consonants. Okay. So let's have a look at how this might go. So the first foot must be a spondy, because if it was a dactyl, we'd have offreides, and we already know that this is long. So this has got to be offreides. And we know that des is long, and we've got the same situation here, right? We can't have a dactyl here because we've only got 1 syllable before another long, so this has got to be a spondy. So offreides hoios, and then if you look here, we've got a long and then something and then a short. So this must be long, short, short. Because if it was a spondy, we would be beginning a foot with a short syllable, which we can't do. So os toi en. And then if you look here, what have we got? We've got 1 foot left here and 3 syllables in the word. And therefore, if it's 3 syllables to fit into 1 foot, that's got to be a dactyl. So andrasi, like that. So the whole line is offreides hoios toi en andrasi dusmeneessin. So that's the kind of principle. So what I would suggest, in fact, let's just have a look at one more. Let's have a look at line 235 as well. So again, last 5 syllables have to be dactyl, spondy, long, short, short, long, long. So in this case, that has to be the last 5 syllables, as, a, po, t, name. Right, so I'm sorry for these slightly messy annotations. So there we go. So those are our last 2 feet. As, apo, ti, name. Okay, now the first syllable of the line has got to be long because it's either the beginning of a dactyl, long, short, short, or it's the beginning of a spondy, long, long. And either way, that's long. And in fact, it would be long anyway because this is a vowel followed by 2 consonants. Now, we also know that this first foot is a spondy because look, the second syllable, the second syllable has an omega in it, and an omega is a naturally long vowel, like eta. So we know that the first foot is a spondy, mentor. Okay, now the next syllable has got to be long for 2 reasons. One, it's the beginning of a foot. And secondly, because it's a vowel plus 2 consonants, alk. So that alpha, or the syllable with the alpha in it, has to be a long syllable. And what else do we know? We also know that this is long because it has an eta in it, which again is a naturally long vowel. And this one here, the E followed by RG, again is long because it's a vowel that is followed by 2 consonants. Right? Epsilon is naturally a short vowel, but that doesn't matter because it's followed by 2 consonants. So the syllable is going to be long. And then here you have an epsilon not followed by 2 consonants, so it's short. Right? Now that means this iota has to be short as well, because otherwise we don't have a foot. You know, you can't have a long at the end of a foot unless it's a spondy, right? So you can't have just a short syllable and a long syllable as a foot in dactylic hexameter. So that means this must be a dactyl, ergesi. Okay, now at this point, I think we can see what's going on perhaps. This syllable, eu, right, that's a diphthong, so it's likely to be long. And then these iotas, it would make sense for them to be short. And so we're going to have dactyl, spondy, right? Now, we could have tried it another way, but it wouldn't really have worked, because let's say we made this a spondy, alki, then we'd have had to have the next foot being a dactyl, mi, des, eu, but that just wouldn't work, because we know that des is long, we know that eu is long. So often it's worth just reading out the line to yourself a few times and just trying to get a sense of which rhythms could work and which rhythms couldn't work. So overall in the line, we get mentor, alchimides, euergesi, as, apotine. Okay. So what I would suggest that you do, if you still have the time towards the end of the lesson, I would say just have a look at some more of these lines, and you can pick any lines you want, it doesn't matter. You might pick some on this page, page 14, you might pick some from page 16, and just have a go at doing that yourselves, right? And you could work together on that. So first of all, mark in the last 5 syllables, long, short, short, long, X. Then go through and have a look, you know, are there any vowels plus 2 consonants? In which case that's a long syllable. Are there any naturally long vowels like omega and eta, which therefore must be long syllables? Are there any naturally short vowels without 2 consonants after them, like omicron and epsilon, which therefore must be short syllables, right? So just, and then try some different ways, right? Because you need to end up with 6 feet, and all of them have to be either dactyls or spondees. And you will find this gets easier over time. So try a few lines like that. And also, yes, try reading some of them aloud, and just to get the rhythm of these lines, because you will find eventually that you'll more or less be able to just read through the line and the rhythm will emerge quite naturally. So yes, have a go at that. And then in the next lesson after this, we will have a look at another passage of Herodotus for paper 1.